Okay, we're at the beginning of the next phase. We have completed scraping the old varnish off the coach roof, so now we're going to be sanding it. So this is going to be the first of two sandings, and depending on the area that I'm going to be sanding, I will either use my DA sander or I will be using just the sandpaper and a block, or just sandpaper alone. Here are the tools I'm going to be using. Here's my 24 volt DA sander. I got some sandpaper in two different grits, 60 and 100. I wanted to use 80, but I don't have any 80, so I will have to use either 60 or 100 depending on how it cuts. And then I'm actually going to be trying something new this year. I've never tried it before, but I've heard a lot of good things about it. These sanding pads, instead of being sandpaper, they rescreen, which is rated at a certain rating. So this is 80 grit. So this has been getting a lot of good press. So they're crazy expensive, but I figured give them a shot. Also use some sanding blocks as needed and scrapers as needed. So, and my trusty vacuum. So when I make some progress, I will sand it up. And I do have a fan with an air filter on it, so I can catch any dust that gets in the air. So I don't want to make too much of a mess. So that's where we stand now. I will get sanding. Okay, I'm going to show some hand sanding that I'm going to do here. I just thought of it that I don't think I showed too much of sanding the mahogany. I've done the teak on the toe rail. So the actual color of the mahogany is a dark color, like this. Around the windows, it's a darker color because that's been protected by the UV. And the wood is currently now is a little on the blonde side, so that's because it's UV damage and also has varnish still embedded in it from when I scraped it, because the varnish penetrates the wood. So I want to get all the old varnish out and get to new fresh wood. So I'm going to take this I'm going to sand on this little piece here. So I'm not going to use a DI, I use a hand sander. I took a little piece of sandpaper, folded it over, put a little curve in it because this is a curved surface. And I'm just going to sand until it gets to a dark color. So take your time, apply a moderate amount of pressure. Try to make, sorry about that, camera. And then, I don't know if you can tell, but just that little area is now a little on the darker side, and it's a lot smoother than this. So I'm going to basically do the entire coach roof till it's like this. So the bigger areas will be done with the DA, so that'll go a lot faster than these areas, especially on the curved side. Anything we do with hand sanding is going to take a little longer, but I'll have a little more control, especially near an edge of paint. So well, that's where we stand now. Okay, made some progress on the sanding. This is the first sanding using 60 grit on the hand sander and 80 on the DA. So you can see how the finish is much darker now. At least I can see it here. Hope it shows up on the camera. So I've done about halfway around the window, and as you can see how blonde it looks on the other end, which I haven't touched yet. So you can see how this nice wood, the grains are all nice and open now, to accept varnish. So it's still a little rough because it is 60 grit sandpaper, so I will go over it again with something a little finer like 220 or 320. And once that's nice and smooth, then I will start doing the varnish. But at this point, it's a long way to go, and that's been enough for now. I will go take a lunch, and I will be back at it. Okay, here we are. I'm making some progress. Have most of the coach roof sanded. So I have the trunk sanded on both sides with 80, and the grab rail on the port side is sanded. Now I just have to sand this one with 80, and then I'm going to go over everything with 100 to get it ready for the varnish. This is the first sanding of the grab rail here. It looks smooth, but looks to be deceiving. The wood still has a lot of varnish embedded in the wood, and it doesn't look like it, but it is. If you run your hands over it, you can actually feel how gritty it is, because when I scraped it, even though I scraped it really well, there's still a lot of varnish that's embedded in the wood. So I'm basically going to be taking a very, very small layer of wood off of this. You really can't see it, but you can actually see the varnish sticking out. So I'm going to use the 60, what is it, 60 or 80? I think this is 60 grit sandpaper on the block, and on my DA I have 80, and that's what I happen to have. So you can actually hear it cutting through the varnish and then turning into wood. So it's kind of interesting. You can feel it and you can hear it. It's really difficult to sand, and you can actually see the wood changing color. And you can still see the varnish popping through in the grain. Now, I don't know if you can hear it, but the pitch is changing, so you can feel that I can still see some varnish in the wood, but a lot of it is actually turning to sanding dust. So I know that I'm actually getting to the wood now, but the initial sanding is not actually getting any wood. So that's why you really need to sand this down, because the varnish will not be able to penetrate the wood with the varnish still in there. So it's just going to sit on top of that. So you need to get to the wood, and the way you can tell the wood is when you actually get some sanding dust showing up the wood color, because the initial sanding is just basically clear. It's almost like a glaze on the wood. So that's why you really need to sand down to the wood. You need the penetration of the varnish into the wood if you want it to hold up. If you don't sand to the wood, it's just going to peel off at some point. So I just wanted to give you a quick demo of that. So, okay, we had a milestone. We finished sanding everything, so this looks really, really good. This is the first sanding at 60 grit. I hand sanded all of this. So, and if you look closely, there's one problem with this particular boat. The screws that hold this grab rail come up from the inside of the boat, and you can actually see the tip of the screws on some of the wood from the years of sanding and maintenance. Some of the wood went away and the tips of the screws are showing, but not a lot I can do about that. But otherwise it looks good. And now we are going to take care of some of the spots on the hatch and the Durad boxes, like some of the varnish that's chipped or peeling. We'll take care of those, and that should be today. And then tomorrow is Sunday, and I hope to maybe give everything the second sanding, and I don't expect that to be too long because I'm not dealing with taking off the old varnish that's embedded. So once you're down to real wood, it's a lot easier sanding. So that's where we stand now. Hope to see you on the next one. Thank you.